optimally. They're required in male and female reproduction. They're required for sperm formation. They're required for testosterone production. They're required for insulin function. What else? They're required for liver and kidney function. And if you don't get them, then your kidney doesn't work properly. You end up retaining water. Again, there's an issue with weight there. And the other place where you get water retention is if you're not digesting your foods properly and you get allergies to food, then you end up getting inflammation in your tissues. And when your tissues become inflamed, they swell and they hold water. And the essential fatty acids have anti-inflammatory properties, so they make the swelling go down, the water is released, and then your body dumps it, provided that your kidneys are working. They lower most risk factors for cardiovascular disease, including high blood pressure, the tendency to form clots that lead to heart attacks, strokes, and embolisms, or emboli. And they will lower high fibrinogen levels, which is another clotting factor. They will lower high lipoprotein little a levels, which is the strongest known risk factor for cardiovascular disease. They decrease inflammation, which is also plays a large role in cardiovascular disease. They will lower high triglycerides. And it sounds funny because here our triglycerides are blood fats. So we're talking about fats that lower blood fats. It doesn't follow a simple logic. The simple logic would say if your blood fats were too high and you ate more fats, they'd go even higher. But if they're the right fats, then they will lower high triglycerides, and they'll do it by up to 65% better than any drug ever devised for high triglycerides or against high triglycerides. Besides all that, they protect our genetic material from damage. And if you damage the oils, they actually change from mutation protective to mutation causing. So there's a big issue. They help with candida and yeast and fungus infections. And sometimes when people take the good oils and they take enough of them, they will get a yeast die-off, and they'll walk around with what we call fog brain, where they feel like there's something not, they can drive and they can work and do that, but they feel like they're a little bit in a fog. And that usually takes 2 weeks to clear. We've seen it go as long as 6 weeks, but very helpful in those situations. They're required for mineral metabolism and mineral transport, so they help to keep bones strong and prevent osteoporosis. They have anti-cancer properties if they're made with health in mind and the ratio is right and they still have their minor ingredients and contain enough omega-3s. They are anti-inflammatory. They dampen the over-response of the immune system in autoimmune conditions. They regulate the activity of many of the enzymes that are required for energy production in the body. The last one is that they're very helpful in weight normalization. They do it both in terms of getting rid of excess water held in tissue and of getting rid of excess fat held in tissue. And the reason why they work is several-fold, and I've already gone through them, but let me just list them again. They increase energy levels, so you're going to burn more calories even if you're sitting on the couch. But they also give you more energy so you feel like being active more. So you're more likely to be active and therefore you'll burn more calories. They lift depression, so you're less likely to eat too much because you're depressed. They suppress appetite and reduce cravings for the foods that do put on weight. They're anti-inflammatory, so they help the kidney function better and to get rid of excess water. They normalize or optimize thyroid function, so that has to do with metabolic rate as well. And then finally, because they make your skin nice, and they elevate your mood, and they make you able to think better, and they give you energy, you're more likely to feel that you're worth taking care of when you're like that than you would if your skin was lousy, your mood was lousy, you couldn't think straight, and you didn't have any energy. So they work in many ways. Now, in terms of, we consistently get 30 to 50 pounds of weight reduction in a year on 3 to 5 tablespoons of oil, the right kind of oil. Okay, we use a blend, richer in omega-3s, made with health in mind. We get 30 to 50 pounds in a year consistently. We've had as much as 80 pounds in 6 months on 3 tablespoons, and we've had it as quick as 11 pounds in 7 days on 10 tablespoons of oil a day. It doesn't make sense, but it works. Now, in that case, it's mostly water reduction because you don't usually lose fat that quickly. We also have bodybuilders who want to get rid of the fat under their skin so that their muscle fibers show. Because in the competition, you get extra marks if you can see the muscle fibers through the skin. And they will use up to 14 tablespoons of the oil blend a day to get rid of the fat under their muscle. So it works not only for people who are overweight, well, the muscle heads are overweight too, but it works for people who have big muscles as well. What you will find is that the people who have big muscles can eat a lot more carbohydrates. You know, people who are active and people who have big muscles can eat a lot more carbohydrates than people who have small muscles or are overweight or are sedentary. So the amount of carbohydrates you eat, you know, you can't say, oh, it's got to be 20 or 40 or whatever percent. You have to do it by what the body tells you. If you're overweight, you're eating too many carbohydrates and you need to lower them. How much do you need to lower them? Until your weight is normal. Okay? They're not evil, it's just that if you don't burn them all, your body has to turn them into fat.
I am grateful to Udo for coming and sharing his wealth of knowledge with us on the fats that heal. As stated earlier, high fat intake has been blamed for a host of chronic problems, including obesity, cardiovascular disease, and cancer. And while curbing your total fat intake is important to staying healthy, avoiding all fats creates its own set of problems. What we need is to distinguish the health-promoting fats from those that can wreak havoc. When we think of fat, we usually picture the visible fat under the skin of chicken, around cuts of beef, pork, or lamb. Or we think of the fat in spreads such as margarine and mayonnaise. We may also be aware of hidden fats in many of our favorite foods and consequently look for fat-free on labels. But what about oils? These are fats too. And while they pack the same number of calories as animal fats, they can be good fats because they provide more than just calories, but a myriad of health benefits too. So, how do we implement Udo's teaching on fats into the PRISM program? First of all, I want you to begin to add the fats that heal into your diet immediately. Because essential fatty acids play a vital role in every life process in our bodies, health and life without them is impossible. You could add anywhere from 2 to 12 tablespoons of unrefined beneficial oils and beyond per day. There will be no restriction on the amount of these oils in your diet. That's right, these are free calories. Bear in mind that this only applies to unrefined beneficial oils, which are mostly found in health food stores. As Udo said, you will not gain weight from these oils. Rather, they will help you lose weight while restoring balance and your health. However, you must continue to count the calories of all other fats such as mayonnaise, butter, processed salad dressings, or any refined oils that you ingest. Lastly, I strongly recommend that you purchase Udo's book, Fats That Heal, Fats That Kill. It will help you gain a better understanding of why the beneficial oils heal your body and the devastation that the unhealthy hydrogenated trans fatty processed fats we too often eat are literally killing us. Also, Udo has created what he calls the Perfected Oil Blend, which can be ordered online or by calling his toll-free number. The oil blend comes in capsules or in liquid form. I choose to use the liquid form each day, and the results in my health and skin have been remarkable. I highly recommend his products to you. Please contact him at www.udoerasmus.com, or you may order through Flora Incorporated by calling 1-800-446-2110.
I hope today's lesson on the fats that heal encouraged you. Giving up the fats that kill, which are found in so many of your processed comfort foods, can be very discouraging. I pray today's good news lifted your spirits. Even though you now possess some valuable information on the subject of fats, letting go of something you've grown to depend on can still be very difficult. To help you cope with the loss of many of your comfort foods, Tony has invited a grief counselor to join us today. Franny Ritter is a licensed marriage and family therapist who works in private practice in Visalia, California. She received her bachelor's degree in biblical education at Multnomah Bible College and her master's degree in marriage, family, and child counseling at Mennonite Brethren Biblical Seminary. Franny has researched, written, and lectured about how psychological issues affect one's relationship with God. Franny and her husband Don also lead team building and staff development workshops with church leadership teams. Here now is Tony's special guest, Franny Ritter, to walk you through this difficult period known as grief.
Every change that we make means that we both gain something and that we lose something. Even changes that we desperately want, we may have to grieve losses that come with that change. As you begin to lose weight, you will need to grieve the losses of things that you had before that kept you balanced, stabilized, and happy. As you begin to lose weight, you'll notice some unexpected feelings that surface, seemingly coming out of nowhere. You might find yourself crying for no apparent reason. You might find yourself feeling sad and depressed, or anxious, or irritable when you thought all that you would feel would be happy. You're finding yourself grieving. You may not know that you're grieving. You may not know why you're grieving, but you're beginning to give up old ways of life and actually welcoming in your new, thinner self. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, a researcher on death and dying, has outlined 5 stages of grieving, all of which you will be going through as you begin to change your lifestyle through your changes in your eating patterns. The initial stage is denial. You may not even know at this point that you're grieving. You may not know that you're giving up things and changing your life. The second stage is anger. You may be angry when you see other people have an easier time losing weight. You may be angry that you stayed heavy for so long. We are usually angry about a lot of different things at once, and we may go back and forth between denial and anger. The third stage is bargaining. We may make bargains with ourselves or with God. Some of these bargains will be unhealthy. We may say, if we can just sneak that one cookie, then we can go back on our diet. We may make a bargain with God and ask Him to help us make it easier so that we really don't have to work that hard. And then we may go back to anger when we find out that our bargaining doesn't work. The fourth stage is depression. As we begin to give up our old philosophies and our old lifestyles, we may feel sad, we may feel emptiness, we may turn the anger that we have inward, and it might turn into depression. The final stage is acceptance. We begin to accept the passing of our old self, and we welcome in our new self. Grieving is not a formula that you can turn on or off. Grieving is feelings. They just are. We can either suppress them and push them under, or we can let ourselves know what we're feeling and go on with our grieving process and our healing process. It's important to confess, not repress, which means that we let ourselves know what we're thinking, what we're feeling. We let other people, we let people in our group know, we let our family know, we let our friends know if that's safe, and of course we let God know if He's a part of our life. There are several ways that we grieve. It's easier for us to know that we're grieving, knowing what we're feeling, than exactly why we're feeling what we feel. It's easier to know why that we're feeling something than why in the world we're feeling it. So I'm going to outline 6 major losses that people have a tendency to grieve. You may be grieving more, you may be grieving different, but in my work as a therapist, these losses are some of the major ones that I encounter when people make lifestyle changes that involve losing weight. The first thing that we need to grieve is the loss of using our body to keep us safe. Oftentimes we use fat to make ourselves an armor so people can't get close to us and hurt us. Sometimes we make it into a fortress where people cannot get anywhere near us, especially if we've been hurt earlier in life by people violating our physical space. We use space to keep us safe, and the more space between us and other people, the safer it is for us. The second loss that we may grieve is the loss of a very easy and simple way to soothe ourselves. We emerge from the womb wanting to suck. We emerge from the womb distressed, and in fact, many people who have seen ultrasounds have noticed that they see babies in utero actually sucking their thumb. When a baby is born, the first thing that a baby will do is be distressed. They'll cry. The second thing they'll do is they'll turn their head to the side and they'll usually begin to root. And usually a parent or somebody in the delivery room will let them come to the breast or give them a bottle or even put their finger on the roof of the baby's mouth so that the baby will be soothed. If in our early lives we had very little nurturing other than food nurturing, we may find that we graduated from the breast to the bottle to the pacifier to the thumb to cigarettes to perhaps coffee to perhaps candy, and basically we're the same as we were when we're babies. We go to food and put something into our mouths when we're stressed or distressed. As we begin to lose weight, we have to give up and grieve the loss of finding an easy way to soothe ourselves. Another loss we may grieve is the loss of our body image. Everything that we do, every symptom we have, even if they're self-destructive symptoms or things that are wrong, we do it for a reason. When we were heavier, we had reasons for being heavier. And we had lots of times hidden reasons for keeping our frame well padded. As we lose weight, we have to look at the philosophies that we may have held to rationalize our staying fat. We may have hidden pride about not being thin. We may have equated thinness with being worldly or materialistic or sexually tempting. We may have spiritualized our larger frame and thought that that made us closer to God, since it de-emphasizes and drives us away from many physical experiences. As we change our shape, we have to change the philosophies that we had to fool ourselves into thinking that being heavy was being either more spiritually mature or emotionally mature. Another loss that we have to grieve is the loss of control we had when we were heavier. When we're heavier, we know exactly what we're going to do when we get upset. We're going to go eat. We know exactly how people are going to relate to us. They aren't, for instance, going to ask us to run a marathon to raise money for the local church. We know how we're going to relate to other people. We're going to keep some distance. As we begin to lose weight, we give up the control that we had. We also give up the control that we have over our feelings. We know that we can always control a feeling that gets out of hand by stuffing it down or repressing it by putting food in our mouth instead. Many of us will substitute food for feelings. As we lose weight, we cannot use food to control our world, and we may feel very out of control. And we may have to grieve those feelings of having to let go of control of the world. Another important loss to grieve, and it's a core loss, is the loss of using our weight as what I call a red herring that directs us away from deeper core issues and problems that we don't want to face. Oftentimes we think, oh, if I was just thin, my life would be fine. If I could just lose weight, everything will be okay. And if we do not discard that fantasy and let go of that, what is going to happen is, as we get thinner and thinner, and our husband hasn't shaped up, our kids are still fighting, our boss is still mean, we still have low self-esteem and are afraid to go out and be with people, we'll realize that weight isn't going to solve our problems and we'll fall into despair. So it's very important when we begin to lose weight and see that we still have other problems that are there. This particular program can help us to see and that we have other problems we need to deal with, and losing weight can be used as a door to open us up to dealing with deeper issues. The final loss we need to grieve is a fast and simple, although unsatisfying way to fill the emptiness that we have that's meant for something greater. We try to fill with food the nagging, profound yearning that God inserted into each of us that is to only be filled by Him. Instead of filling it with food, we now have to leave it open, and it's painful because it's gaping open, and we have to wait and let God fill it. Waiting and being empty and receptive are not things usually that we feel comfortable with. And any of us who has been hurt earlier in our lives, we have extra capacity to feel emptiness. And if we can grieve the loss of being able to fill those emptiness, the empty places easily, and if we can stay open and feel the emptiness and feel the yearning and not fill it in a quick and fast, easy way with food or other things. As we give up food, we may decide that we try to fill it with other things like relationships or political or social causes. If we keep that emptiness open and allow God to fill it, this will change this program from just another diet into a lasting, deep, and lifelong change.
We are so grateful to Franny Ritter for sharing this valuable information with us. You have been experiencing the benefits as well as the challenges of changing your lifestyle for more than 1 month. At this point, you may have come to understand that food addiction is real. It does exist and should not be taken lightly. Overcoming addiction requires transformation. This process of change is not an easy one. Have you come to a fork in the road on your journey to the true you? If so, ask yourself, do I have the desire and the courage to reach out and become all God created me to be? The answer is yes, of course you do. You just need the help, support, and encouragement of God and your group, accountability partner, or consultant. You can take that fork in the road in stride and choose the right path, the path that will lead you to the true you and your right weight. The urge is strong to entertain thoughts of self-doubt, but this can, and all too often does, lead to sabotage. The temptation to leave the program completely or bend the guidelines a bit to deal with the pain of grieving may seem unbearable. During the past week, have you found yourself tempted to eat too much of the healthy foods allowed, such as fruits, carrots, or rice cakes with peanut butter and fruit spread? Remember, these high glycemic foods must be used in moderation. Are you tempted to stop measuring your portions at mealtime? Have you told yourself that you're bored with writing down your food choices and counting calories? Please spend your sharing time at the end of this video with your group or accountability partner discussing these issues. They are clear indicators that you are in danger of self-sabotaging your weight loss journey. By now, you've been on the program long enough to